Welcome everyone to the 209 Journey podcast. I'm your host, Luis Urbano, and in today's episode, I'm going to be interviewing Maria Alanis. She is a filmmaker from Stockton, California, and so I'm really excited to find out all about what she's done thus far in her career and what her future plans are as well. But before we get started, quick reminder, if you're not following the 209 Journey on social media quite yet, please feel free to give it a follow. You can find it at the 209 Journey on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Also, if you're not subscribed to the show yet, please subscribe to it wherever you're listening to it currently. Each platform gives you the ability to be able to subscribe, and if you do so, you would be alerted of any new episodes that are posted as well. So a great perk to have. Also, as I mentioned before, I do post new episodes each week on Wednesday mornings. Episode should be up by 7 in the morning. And so for anyone who is wanting to listen early, maybe if you're commuting to work or maybe you're beginning work, I want to make sure that you can actually listen to it each week. So let's go ahead and get started with today's episode of the 209 Journey podcast. So as I mentioned earlier, on the podcast today is Maria Alanis from Stockton. Welcome to 209 Journey, Maria. How's it going?
Good. Thank you for me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you for taking some time to be on here. I know you're pretty busy over in LA right now, but I'm really excited to hear all about all the things that you've done in the film industry thus far. But before we get to that, because I'm really excited to hear about all that, I do want to hear more about your story growing up here in the 209. I know that, you were born in Michoacan. You came at like a really early age, right at the age of 1 to Stockton, and then you grew up most of your life until you went to college. But just tell us more about what it was like to grow up in Stockton.
Growing up in Stockton's all I really ever knew. We never really went out anywhere. My parents were, I guess I'm first generation here from Mexico, so my parents brought me at a really young age, and until I think I was in third grade, I was illegal. I was undocumented. So it was my dad and I that were undocumented. My mom and my brother. My mom was a resident, and my brother was born here. So we didn't really do a lot because there was a lot of fear about like going out and like getting caught by like the migra and stuff like that. So we kind of just stayed. And yeah, my parents, they worked in the field, like the tomato field, for a while. Probably most of my grade school years. And I mean, I remember going with them to the field whenever they couldn't like find like a sitter or something. And I mean, that was just my childhood. That's what I knew. I never really considered myself like I guess I never really considered myself poor, because now that I look back, I was like, wow, I don't know how we did it. But yeah, I mean, I lived in Turnpike Road. It's right across from Dolores Huerta Elementary, right next to Edison High School.
Oh, okay.
And those apartments that were Central Mart used to be, but now it's like a Dollar General, something like that. I lived in those apartments, and yeah, those were probably like the best years of my life because I had so many friends there that lived there. And all of my friends that were in that apartment complex, we all went to Dolores Huerta together. So it was just like a cool environment to kind of grow up in. Like I never really thought of another place like, oh, I wish I lived somewhere else. I just thought that, oh, this is like a cool community we had just in that like apartment complex. And then the school, I remember meeting Dolores Huerta a few times when I was in the elementary school. But yeah, I don't think I even went to like the mall until I was like in the 5th grade. And I would go to Sherwood Mall, and I would then once I discovered the mall, my mom take me every week. So every week she would take us just to play that arcade, in the arcade area that's I don't think it's there anymore. But yeah, I would love going to Sherwood Mall with my mom and my brother. And then we would occasionally go like fishing in the Delta with my dad. And then yeah, it brings, like, thinking about it now, it just brings back a lot of memories of just like fun childhood, because my parents did a really good job of like, I guess, closing us off from like their struggles, but also like a lot of the kids that I hung out with, they were in kind of a similar situation as I was, and we were just like making the best out of everything. And I don't think we've ever like, it was more like a carefree type of thing. We would just go outside and play. And I never wanted to leave Stockton when I grew up. When I was growing up as a kid, I was like, oh, this is where my family is, where my friends are. This is my home. And I mean, I loved it. I loved every minute of it. I remember going to even like the St. Mary's homeless shelter, because they would give out free food and stuff like that. And I did a small documentary for them. I remember when I was in college, and yeah, it's just like a lot of memories, especially in the south side of Stockton for me, because that's where I mostly grew up. Yeah, it was such a like tight knit community, and kind of people looking out for one another, and just like the cool things that we would get really excited for. Like I remember when they built the theater in downtown, everyone was like, "Oh, it's such a cool theater," instead of like the Holiday Cinema that's like in near Hammerlane. And then everyone started going downtown. So I remember doing that like in high school, and we would just be like, "Oh yeah, we're going to downtown to go watch a movie." And I mean, I ended up in the film industry, so I loved watching films and stuff like that. So yeah, like it's just like such a thinking about it, and then going back and visiting my parents, because I go back occasionally. It's a lot of really good memories, not really any bad memories, but a lot of really good memories. And I remember my grandmother, she used to, because we used to live in those apartments, she would sneak us into the Edison like football or soccer area. It was like the weekend, and we would just like slip through the gate, and the sprinklers would turn on, and we would just like, she's like, "You guys want to go to the park and get wet?" And we're like, "Yeah." It wasn't a park, it was a school, but we would just like hop in and like, or sneak in, and we would just like play there. And one time I think the security like caught us, but he just saw us having fun, that he just let us do our thing, and then we would walk back home. But yeah, it's like a lot of those really random, like when you watch a film and you see like random like things that kids do that just to have fun, like out in the street. That's kind of what we were doing. And like I never felt unsafe as a kid, especially when I was like in those apartment complexes. Like I said, it was a community. But yeah, it's just a lot of fun random things that we used to do. We used to find things to do. And like yeah, it was just like our imaginations kind of took over. So that's kind of how we would have fun, and just like the adults letting us be kids, which I think they did a really good job with, not just myself, like my family, but like the parents around us, because they were all in similar circumstances where they all immigrated. And I mean, obviously, when you're immigrating, a lot of times they come to this country to make their children's life better, and they kept with that, I guess, promise, and they really tried to make it as so that everything is fine, everything's good. We're not like one paycheck away from like being like homeless or anything. It was just like this community of like, yeah, if you need help, we'll help, or if you need me to watch the kids, we'll watch the kids. So like all of our neighbors we were really close knit, and we would throw parties together. We would like we threw like a Halloween party one year, and that was really cool, because all the kids from the apartment complex just went to the basketball court, and we were just like, they just did a bunch of games for us, and that was really cool. And then I also remember too that the Stockton PD would stop by the apartment complex, and they would like give us toys from their trunk. So I remember that, because that year I don't think my parents had enough money to buy like something big. So I think they gave me like a tea set or something when I was a kid. And I was kind of a tomboy, but I was just like, thank you. But I ended up playing with it, so yeah. But yeah, I just remember a lot of those really cool things when I was a kid, and just really letting us be kids. So yeah, that was me growing up. I was just always like, when people say just be a kid, that's kind of what I was trying to do, is just be a kid. And I didn't really think a lot about like what could go wrong. I was just doing a lot of things. And I did get in trouble a lot, but I was having fun.
Yeah, don't we wish we could all go back to those, at least relive some of those years again, right? And all
Yeah.
that, yeah. But yeah, no, that's really great that, you grew up in a really good community like that, and that everyone being in the same circumstance, you kind of, related with each other. I can relate to that. I also grew up in a community like that, and it's really nice to be able
Yeah.
to be around that.
Yeah.
And by the way, I think they're remodeling Sherwood Mall too. I don't know if you've heard of that, but I think it should be reopening soon from what it looks
Isn't
like.
it
But
like Dick's Mall or something like that now?
oh, are they gonna change it? Oh, yeah.
I thought the name changed, or did they keep it?
Maybe they changed it. Yeah, I'm not too sure about the name. I've just been seeing that they are remodeling the whole mall, and also I believe now making it just into one, right? Because before there was two, right? It was like kind of
The
weird, right?
Weberstown?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Weberstown was
So
like you go there for shoes and like for Barnes and Noble, and then sure would you go there to eat? Like that was the whole thing.
yeah, well, not now it'll just be one, right? How I think how it should have been, right? To
Yeah.
say,
Yeah, like the Modesto Mall, two
yeah,
stories. Perfect.
yeah, or they could have just made it two stories too. Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. Yeah. I know you said that like you didn't want to leave Stockton, so walk us through, when you make that decision of like, you know what, it's gonna be tough, but I'm gonna actually like have to leave Stockton.
I went to college in the Art Institute in Sacramento, so I would just commute. I figured it'd be easier to just save money.
Mm.
But yeah, like I was in Sacramento for like most of my days, and then would come back home, or the weekend for the weekends. I'd be in Stockton. But obviously, with the industry that I chose to get my bachelor's in, I would eventually need to leave. And because I mean, there is a lot of media and like some filmmaking going on in Northern California, but not as much as Southern California. I mean, it's Hollywood. So I did think I would need to leave at some point, but there's like so many things that I thought about that I would be missing and missing out on. Like I said, I grew up in Stockton. That's all I ever knew. That was the home that I knew, and I was familiar with it. And I was familiar with the Bay Area, with Sacramento, with all of that. So it held like a really near and dear like spot in my heart. So leaving it was really tough. And I moved in 2020, 2 weeks before the shutdown. So I have perfect timing.
Oh.
And everything shut down. The film industry shut down, which that's crazy for the film industry to shut down. It has to be really bad. And I was like, well, I moved from Stockton to LA, and now look what's going on. Like I have nothing. But eventually I did end up on some shows. But yeah, it was really hard. And I spoke to my mom about it because it was such a big change for me. Not only will I be not living in Stockton, I won't be with my family and the community that I built throughout the years. And just like that support that I have and that I've had built all my life, especially with film and TV. A lot of the times it's not taken seriously. So you have relatives and they're like, oh, what are you doing with your life? I'm like, I'm studying film and TV. And they're like, oh, is there something else that you're going to do? Like, oh, how are you going to work in the news? And for a long time, I worked in the news because I felt like that was the only option for me. And like I said, I didn't want to leave Stockton. I worked at ABC 10 for a little bit over a year. And I was considering being like, just staying there. But I really wanted to get into TV and film. And that was like my passion. So I had to sit down with my mom. And mom was like, what you want is in LA. So you have to go to LA. Everyone's here. Yes, you'll be fine. Like your whole family's here, but you can come. It's like a 5-hour drive. And so I eventually did move. And I mean, there are a lot of things that I kind of thank Stockton for in LA, because there's a lot of things that are very similar to Stockton here in LA, but there's a lot of things that are very different. But I feel like Stockton kind of helped me create like some independence, but also understand like community, because here I live in Koreatown and there's a lot of Koreans here and there's a lot of Mexicans and Salvadorians. And it's just like a community that I'm really used to living in Stockton. So just like it's a similar kind of experience in the area that I live in. But then you go to like a different area like Beverly Hills, and we don't have that in Stockton. But like other areas where it's like, oh, people say that don't stay away from that area. I'm just like, that's literally where the best food is. That's where the nicest people are going to be. So that's why, like, when I was looking for an apartment, like Koreatown really spoke to me because I mean, I've been around Koreatown, but it also like kind of was like home a little bit because it had the culture like that Stockton had. And Stockton has like this culture that I haven't been able to like quite pinpoint here in LA that I really miss, because it's like like a sense of community that a lot of people have of like, oh, we'll look out for each other and stuff like that, especially where I grew up. And where friends are more family than they are friends. And that's kind of what I wanted to like surround myself with here in LA. So I chose like an area where people kind of have their like, oh, it's not as safe, but to me, it's just, I don't think it's not safe. I just think that people have like their perception of what safe really is. Because I felt nothing but safe in Koreatown and the same in Stockton. It's just the culture that these people bring and that I get to be a part of. It's just, I'd rather have that than live like in a fancy studio in Beverly Hills and like only see like a palm tree here and there. Like, I want the culture. I can walk down the street and get authentic pupusas, and you can't do that anywhere else. So yeah, it's the culture for me, the authentic Mexican food, and all that stuff. But yeah, like in Stockton, we all have our spots, we all have our burrito trucks and stuff like that. It took me a while to find a truck here, but yeah. And then there's a lot of spots where I am really into like ice cream for some reason now. And there's an ice cream spot in Stockton that I really like, but I forgot the name of it. It's on like Harding Way. I think it's Harding Way. It might be on Harding Way. It's like near Filbert, like Fremont and Filbert, where that Little Caesars is. You go down a little bit. And I say Fremont and Filbert because I used to work at Little Caesars. I worked there for like 6 years. Oh, so shout out to the Little Caesars. But yeah, it's just, for me, it was like the community. And yeah, that's what I was gonna miss the most about Stockton, is like that family friend community that I had built. I can always like call someone. I was never really alone. And then you're moving to a different city, and I have family here, but it's just building up that network and that sense of, like I said, community, for the lack of a better word. So yeah, that was why it was so hard for me to leave Stockton to begin with.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you're finding your home away from home, and that you picked a good spot, and it looks like it's all working out. And I could definitely relate to that conversation that you had with your family too, because I mean, I was a film and TV major for just one semester, and that I didn't go your route and being like, I'm okay with like moving out of like Modesto here, but luckily I was able to find my career in another field, and so it kind of still worked out. But yeah, I mean, it is tough when you have to explain to others like, yeah, this is what I want to do, and even then, right, they're like, well, even if you move over there, like, is it going to work out? Are you going to struggle? And yeah, that's
yeah. and it's interesting because media is like $1 trillion industry. There's so much money in media. Like, I don't think people realize the commercials that they watch, the shows that they watch, the posters, the advertisements, all of that is media. And there's such a huge opportunity there for a lot of people, especially for like people in our community and like Latinos especially. I feel like a lot of the times we kind of get scared off, like, oh, our parents brought us here to like be successful, have a good job, have a good career. And a lot of the times it's easy to just like be like, I'm a teacher or a doctor, which that's amazing. But if you want to go into the arts, I wouldn't be afraid because there are jobs that will pay you a lot of money to like do nothing. So film and TV, like it's like it's not taken seriously in Stockton, but here in LA, it's like, yeah, take it seriously because that's where the money is, you know?
Yeah. Plus, you get to do what you love too, right? So it's
Oh
like
yeah,
that's all that really matters, I think, at the end of the day. So yeah, I'm
yeah,
glad it's changing, right? And you're out there trying to help us change that image, so everyone could be like, hey, she's from Stockton, she made it there. So hey, if you want to be there, you could actually be there because there's people that have made it there. So that's why I get really happy when I see anyone from the 209, like just having these jobs that aren't usually the jobs that you can get around here. So
yeah, exactly.
well, I want to hear more about where your interest in filmmaking came from and being, around a TV studio as well. So can you walk us through like when that happened?
Uh, my interest in like film and TV like started when I was a kid. I remember my parents. I kept asking my parents for like just a handy cam like recorder, video recorder, and they saved up for I think a year. I don't know how long they saved up for, but they finally bought me one. It was like a Sony Handycam, and I would make videos or movies with that. So whenever we would mess up, we didn't have the technology at the time to like edit and then go back and like do all that, especially because it was tape. So I would have to rewind and be like, all right, let's try it again, and then tape over it. So that's kind of how my interest started, and my family they were all have to act, so be participants in it. I would act too in them, and I would also direct them. So it like that's how it really started. I think I was pretty young. I was probably in the fifth grade when I started really showing interest in film and TV. And then I went to high school, and it was just like something that I always thought was like it was always in the back of my head. But I kind of didn't know what I wanted to do when I was in high school. I went to Edison and I took a video class there, and then I moved from Edison and then I went to McNair, and I took like a photography class there and a design class there, and it just kind of almost made me think about it more seriously. And when I was thinking about college, I'm like, okay, well, what do I want to do for college? Like, I don't want to do anything else but this film and TV stuff. At the time, I wanted to act, and but I also didn't want to go far. So I'm just like, oh, I'll apply to the Art Institute. So I got in, and once I was there, it was just like, oh, like I'm really interested in the camera department. And that's where in that school we were required to shoot and I mean direct 2 films. And that's where my 2 films came from. But from there I kind of wanted to lean more towards cinematography. So myself be a cinematographer. And I think I was one of 3 women cinematographers in that school. I mean, it was a small school, but for the majority, it was all men. So I was one of the only women that was like actually like out there shooting short films and stuff like that. And I think I shot my first film in like 2014, 2013, but I didn't direct it. I just shot it. And after that, that's when I directed my film. And then in 2016, I directed my senior thesis. But yeah, like that's kind of how those 2 films kind of came about, is that I mean, I had to pass a class, but I also wrote those films and like, I really loved the films. And then you kind of get caught up because like if you talk to anyone that's ever directed or written something, it's like your baby now. So it's like, you don't want to show it to people because you don't want people to tell you how bad it is. But then like you also want people to tell you how bad it is so that you can learn, but then it hurts your feelings and it's like this whole cycle. But yeah, that's where my films came from.
Yeah, it's kind of tough, right? Sometimes you get feedback and it's good to get it,
Yeah.
right? But it's like it's kind of hard for it not to hit you just a little bit, is what I
Yeah.
say sometimes. But then you need it, right? So it's like, all right, well, just go ahead and just say it. But
Yeah.
well, speaking of those 2 short films, can you tell us a little bit more about those 2 films? What were they about, and how was it for you when you were directing your first one, right? Because it's like the first time that you're doing this and, getting that experience? What was it like?
My 2 short films. The first one is called Alexithymia, which is, that word is, the definition of that word is basically you can't really feel anything, or you're not sure what you're feeling, like your emotions. So let me like get the definition, because I remember I used to know this by the
Okay.
easily. I just want to say it right. Alexithymia.
It's an interesting word. I mean, I've never heard it before.
It is.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm learning a new word every day. So that's the one for the day.
Yeah. So it's like you're just like struggling with feeling emotions. Like you're not sure how you're feeling and stuff like that. And it's interesting because I wrote it because I used to I still do listen to this band called Anberlin, and they have a song called Alexithymia, but they never mentioned the word in the song. So then I looked up that word and I was like, oh, that's interesting. So then I wrote kind of the short film around that word. It's basically about this girl who, instead of like talking about her feelings, she paints her feelings. And her mom, it's like an illusion. She lost her mom as a kid. Her mom is like telling her and writing down on her paintings what those paintings mean, like what emotion it is. So she's happy, she writes down happy. And then she's like, oh, okay, I'm happy. But then her dad is like abusive. So that's kind of why she suppresses like the feelings or doesn't know how to express her feelings. And directing that was interesting because when you're starting as a film, like a filmmaker, you're like, okay, I have a vision and this is my vision and no one can change my vision. But then you also have to understand that filmmaking is a very collaborative field. So without all the people that are on that set, I can't make the film. And it really taught me to listen to other people's opinions, like the shots, the writing. I went to my actors and they were like, oh, can I say this instead of this? And at first I was like, why would they want to change it? But then they would tell me and then we would rehearse it. And I'm like, oh, it makes sense. It sounds way better than how I wrote it. So it just really taught me about like collaboration, and it taught me to kind of appreciate every single job on set because they're all really important. But it was really hard because it's like a 7-minute short film, I think, or maybe less. And we shot it in 3 days. And I mean, I don't know how much you know about like filming something, but like a 30-second commercial can take up to a week to film. So it's a lot. So to do like a 7-minute short film, my first time doing it in 3 days, it was hard. But I mean, all my friends, they crewed up with me and they all helped me out. And it was fun. I mean, I loved every second of it. And I was stressed every second of it, but I loved it. And for my second film, that's kind of the vibe that I wanted to bring. I wanted to bring like having fun and like everyone, whoever really cared about like helping me was there, and the collaboration. And that film was longer, and it also I was given more time to shoot it and edit and everything. And in that film, I shot some of it in Stockton in my parents' home, and it was funny because the crew is used to like getting food from like, we go and like we order like Chinese food and we just get like a bulk of Chinese food or something. But my mom was like, oh, I'll cook for you. So mom cooked tacos for everyone, and everyone was like, oh, like these were amazing. So they were happy that day or the few days that we shot in Stockton because of that. And then my dad was offering the crew Coronas, and I'm like, Dad, we're still working. We can't drink yet. So yeah, that was a thing. But yeah, we shot some of that in Stockton, and then we went and shot more of it in like Chico, and we shot in the Bay. And I actually had to get permits first for the Bay Area because you have to. I mean, in filmmaking, you have to get permits. I should have gotten permits for the Stockton one, but it was my house, so I'm just like, I just need my parents' signature to be like, yeah, it's okay. But yeah, it's like the whole, like I said, the community. I love community, and filmmaking is very, very much a community, and you kind of become family with all the people that you're working with and collaborating with. So Yeah, that film was my last film. My second film was called I'd Like to Live, and it focused a lot on like depression and the struggle of losing someone to suicide. Because I'm a huge advocate about like mental awareness, mental health awareness, and suicide prevention. So that's something that I focused on, and it was interesting because it premiered in the Guild in Sacramento, and one of my friends came up to me, and she she like was she was kind of in tears, and she's like, "Oh, thank you for the film." And at the time, I was just like, I had just finished filming. I mean, editing it. I had just finished getting the sound design done with my friend, and we were just like, okay, we're finally here at the theater. It was like go go go, and then for her to tell me how much she appreciated it, I was just like, oh, I made a film that people really connected with. And it's funny because Alexithymia has like over 20,000 views on YouTube, and there's like people that's like in the comments, they come back and watch it because they find it really relatable. And it's such a weird feeling reading those comments and like having people say, I can relate to this. And it's like, it's almost like you're not worthy of like having this much power of like showing these people like there's someone else out there that has experienced the same thing as you. And it makes me feel really good to like create something and inspire other people or show them that, you know, they're not the only ones going through a certain thing. So I feel like that's why for me, film and television is really, really important. It's such a important thing in society, and it's such an important thing for other people to like connect with everyone and connect with just like a character or anything that'll make you feel better. And for me as a kid, I grew up watching a lot of TV, so I'm just like that's what I wanted to do. I wanted someone to connect to my films and to my writing. And I mean, at the moment I'm working on a series as well as a feature film, and the characters that I have in one of the series, that series is based in Sacramento and in Stockton. So I'm hoping that in the future, I wouldn't want to shoot it in LA. I would want to shoot it up north because I want to get the authentic feeling. I don't want to get like the studio vibes, which I mean, in the studio they are really good at recreating the location, but I would love to kind of bring like opportunities for like locals in Sacramento and Stockton because that's kind of where I was, and there wasn't a lot of opportunities when I got there. I remember when they were shooting Lady Bird, everyone was like, "How do you get on that set?" But it's a union set, so it's a little bit different, and you can't. It's harder to get in it. So yeah, and all of that stuff. So I would love to bring like a film set or a television set to Northern California, and just like give that opportunity to other people and like show them like, hey, like we are worth showing. Like we have beautiful areas. We have areas that, and we have people that have beautiful stories. Like a lot of people that I've met in Stockton, I'm just like, wow, you should have like your own series, like a reality TV, because you are hilarious. You are so inspirational, you know? So that's kind of what I want to do. And that's my goal, is to like bring a show up there, because I don't think it'll be as authentic as it should be if I just did it here.
Yeah, I agree. That's really awesome. And see, that's why I said earlier, we need more people from our area to go over there and then to come back and just get back to the community where you grew up at, because that's how you get industries moving around the state, right? So
yeah,
it's good.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I'm really looking forward to that series. You gotta let me know whenever you start working on that, because that sounds really exciting to be able to have a series just based out of Northern California. So
yeah, for sure. I just need the money real quick, and then we'll be
yeah.
right on it.
If anyone wants to sponsor, there's there's plenty of companies in the Central Valley that I'm like, you guys got money, you could actually make this
that is
happen.
true.
Yeah,
I'll
and they
finish
would
writing it
benefit.
and send it to them.
they would benefit so much from it. I mean, I could
Oh,
think of
100%.
like a lot of good ones, and like you mentioned, there's a lot of good scenery around. I mean, don't get me started with Yosemite. That's not even
Oh
that
my
far from
God.
us. Like,
No, and it's funny because my friend came to visit and we're working on a documentary at the moment, and she wanted to interview someone, and she was like, "Oh, I'll ask a cafe," because she met the owner here in LA. And I'm like, "They're gonna charge because it's LA. They're gonna charge." And she asked, and yeah, it's like $500 an hour. And then we're like, "Yeah, no." So then I'm just like, I remember when I was in college in Northern California, since we're gonna go up there, I'll ask like cafes around because I think we were planning on shooting in Sacramento. And yeah, every cafe was like, "Yeah, as long as you like bring your own props or what else do you need anything? Do you need to be in the back? We'll accommodate." Because they're just like they're friendly. They're not like here in Hollywood where it's like, "No, you got to pay us this much
Mm,
money." And or some of them, I remember in college, I was like, "I'll take some pictures for your social media or whatever," and they're like, "Yeah, of course." It's just like more friendly
mm.
up north than it is here. So here is like $500 an hour. I'm like, no.
Wow, that's crazy, especially like if you're an indie like
Yeah,
creator too. It's like, how are you going to be able to fork over that money when
yeah,
you're trying to just make a name out of yourself? And yeah, that's wow.
yeah,
I
and
didn't know that.
yeah, and interesting enough, my friend directed a short film in the Stockton airport that I shot. You know that Stockton airport, the one that has like they you can go to like Las Vegas or San Diego or something like that,
Oh
and it has
yeah.
like a lot of yeah. So
Uh,
I live well, my family lives like not too far from there, so we shot her short film there, and it actually got into some festivals, and it was really cool because it was such a small airport, and the manager was really cool and everything, and it wasn't as expensive as like because she was trying to get San Francisco airport, and
oh.
I don't even want to tell you how much that would have been. It would have been a lot of money. So, and we ended up getting the Stockton one. I'm like, this is perfect because they let us go everywhere.
Mm,
Except for like the TSA area, they only let like I think 4 or 5 of us there because it's security and stuff like that. But they were like, you guys got to do it in 20 minutes because TSA we can't like have everyone in there. We're like, okay, cool. We shot something really quick and then we got out and then we just like it was like probably the coolest experience just being able to like kind of free roam an airport, no, even if it was that small. But yeah, we shot in the Stockton airport, and that was cool.
sometimes you gotta improvise, right? And I think luckily we
Yeah,
have a lot of good spots around. You could still make it happen, right? I mean, you're still getting the shot, like you said, and
yeah,
yeah, they won't charge because
yeah.
I always find it a hard time, like just thinking about anyone charging you for that because you're basically giving them free publicity, right? I mean, they're gonna get the credit there, and then I mean, people are gonna recognize it, probably be like, "Hey, isn't that spot?" So it just seems like a no brainer. You're getting free advertising. Here you go,
Yeah,
like.
yeah. Here it's like, no, you gotta show money. It's so expensive here. Like anything, even to get a permit, it's really expensive. Like I wouldn't be able to go out in like the middle of downtown LA with my camera and like put it in the sidewalk without like maybe getting someone to be like, "Do you have a permit?" Because I'd be like kind of afraid, like if especially if it looks like an actual camera where like big lens, a big body.
Oh.
But if I go to Stockton, people would just be like waving to the camera. It's such a big difference.
Wow, yeah, such a 360-degree thing
Yeah.
between one another. Yeah, that's something else, especially with permits. I mean, I remember my only semester I took the class and that they really talked a lot about, permitting and making sure you like talk to the city. I know my team directed a little short film and there was like fake gun props being used and it was just in
Oh yeah.
someone's house and they still had to
And you
go
gotta get
through all the
insurance. You
process.
gotta do
Yeah,
all that stuff. Yeah.
it's like, whoa, it's only a class project, but all right. I mean, that's how it is though. But it's good that they, teach all that, right? Because like you said, that's what you got to deal with when you're actually in the industry. And if you don't do that, then you can't do your job.
Yeah, that's true. And it also protects you, like especially the insurance. I remember when I was doing my senior project, my actors were gonna be on the beach and they asked me if the actors were gonna touch the water, like at least their ankle. And I'm
Mm.
like, I don't think so, because I think that would have been like an extra whatever amount of money if they even like kind of touch the water, because it's like this whole like, in case something happens to them, I would have that insurance. And I'm just like, that's wild. Like, it's so crazy, like all the rules that we have, which I mean, it's good, but like that was as a college student, I'm like, they're not even going to be near the water because I don't want to pay this extra money.
Wow, I just can't imagine when you're trying to budget things out. Like, how does that process work out? Like when you're trying to figure, okay, this is how much I need for this, for that, for that. Like,
Yeah. So with a film, for like, okay, if you're doing like a 10-minute film, at at least I would say budget like $10,000, which is interesting because it's a 10-minute film and it's a short film. I think I was able to do mine with like $6,000, my senior project, and it's a 16-minute film. But I knew a lot of people asked for a lot of favors. So that's also the best way to go if you don't have that much money. And I mean, I had my mom cook a lot because I couldn't afford caterers and stuff like that. But yeah, like 10,000 for like a 10-minute, 20-minute film is a good start, because you're gonna have to you pay literally everything. You pay for location. A lot of us up north would use like Airbnb. We would just make sure to tell them like, hey, this is a shoot, because I wouldn't want to like surprise them. We would use Airbnb. We've had to pay for the crafty, so there's always snacks, water. You got to pay for food. You got to pay your actors. You got to pay insurance. You got to pay permits. You got to pay people's gas. You pay your crew. So your crew, like the gaffer, which they light. You pay your cinematographer, camera, your assistant director. You got to pay a lot of people to do this, and that's why I mean, people don't understand, especially when they're doing like fundraising, because we were required to do like a fundraiser, like an Indiegogo and Kickstarter. And some of us would be successful, but some of us wouldn't. And we would have to, whatever was left, we kind of have to take it out of our own pockets. And then we would produce this film with a lot of our money in the film. And people are like, oh, that's so cool. Like, how did you do this? How much would it cost? And they thought it was like maybe $1,000. I'm like, no, it's so much money. Like I said, with the commercial, 30 seconds takes like, it can take a few days, but also 30-second commercial is like $1 million. So like more than $1 million. Like the Super Bowl commercial that you see that are a minute or two, those are millions of dollars. And I'm here making a short film that's 16 minutes. So just imagine how much money I had to spend to make the short film and make it to the best that I could. And in my senior project, I had a stunt where the girl is jumping from the bridge, and I'm like, how am I going to do this? Like, do I need to like reach out to? I think I reached out to the those jumping places with the jumpers, and I was like, can we like have her jump in like green screen? But we ended up getting that there's a bridge next to Sac State that looks kind of like a miniature Golden Gate Bridge, and we put a mattress like on the side of the bridge, and we just like got a really good close up, and she jumped, and we just like shot it really slow motion and got some of her dress and like cutaways and stuff like that, and it looked really legit. But instead of spending, I think it was gonna be like maybe I budgeted like maybe 2,000 on the VFX and all that stuff, and like renting out a place to do all that. We did it for like $100, because all I did was pay for people's gas. And it's just like, just the cuts that you make and the connections you have and the people and the friends and stuff like that. That helped me a lot with saving money. But yeah, and you got to pay, if making a short film, unless you only get your friends and they're like, oh yeah, we'll do it just for fun, you got to pay people, and it's a lot of money.
So I guess no one does it voluntarily, or like, is that still a thing where like actors could, it's just basically for experience and each other is helping each other out basically?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people did do it like volunteer. Like I had a few friends that they just helped because I helped in their film, or because they're just friends. A lot of the actors I wanted to pay, because I didn't know most of the actors, and I wanted to make sure that you give them money, because a lot of the times people don't get that actors, this is their job. They're taking 12 hours out of their day because we shoot for 12 hours to be on my set. So if I don't, I need to give them something, you know? Like also like my friends too, like they're taking 12 hours out of, like if I had the money, I would pay all my friends. But yeah, like there's 12-hour days. I mean, obviously as students, we kind of went past that. You're not supposed to. But yeah, we did it's just the courtesy of like, yeah, you're helping me, but you're helping me for a long time. And it's going to be like 12-hour days that you're helping me with. So it was just like, I tried to do the best that I could. And I mean, if I couldn't afford to pay them for the day, I would give them like the gas money, and I would make sure that they had food. They always had lunch. They always had like crafty snacks in place, because crafty in the film industry is a huge thing. Crafty is crazy because yeah, there's always food on set. Always. There's never not food on set. I've never been to a set where there's no food. Like they spend so much money on crafty, and I understand why, because it's hard work. It's a lot of work. And a lot of the times you do film for 12 hours, over 12 hours. I've been on a set for like 17 hours. It's a long time. Wow. So you need some sort of like food to keep you going. And there's a lot of coffee.
Oh, I can imagine 17 hours.
Yeah.
That you that doesn't give you enough time to sleep, because you're not even going to sleep 7 hours. So you're going to go back home and do other things and then sleep. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something else. But yeah, I'm glad that, you were able to find ways to still compensate them in one way or another, because yeah, you're right. It's long shifts. I mean, if we think of any other job, normally you have your 8 hours and you're gone. But with you guys, yeah, that's a lot of commitment to be around. So
yeah, and it's interesting because yeah, it's like I would still rather be on set for 12 hours than be in an office for 8 hours, you know? Like I love going to work every day. And that's something that I'm really fortunate enough to say, because a lot of people don't get to say that. I was given really good opportunities, and I was presented with a lot of really amazing opportunities. And obviously I wouldn't be here without my parents sacrificing what they had to sacrifice to get me here. So every time I do something, I do it thinking of like my family back home, and I do it thinking of like other people, because it's such a hard industry to break into. And I'm always like really thankful, like where I come from, and thinking this is another door. And not just, I don't really think it's so much as like another door for me, but it's like another door for people behind me. I also I mentor for a program called Creating Creators that the founders, they actually started in Sacramento. Well, that's where I met them, in Sacramento. They started in LA, but they started a class in Sacramento, and I would mentor students. Majority of them were like Latinos, and it's just like giving them that artistic bug. And I think my class was in the 5th grade, and they did great. They were amazing. We taught them how to make a film. They premiered their films at Pixar, and it's really cool because you don't really get to see that, especially like in Northern California. You don't get that exposure of like filmmaking and stuff like that. So for me, it's like, yeah, I'm presented with all these awesome opportunities, but I also want to be able to open the door for someone else to make it easier to get in, because it took me a long time to get into where I'm at right now. So I kind of want to like be a hand and be like, hey, if you want to and you want to pursue this career, don't be afraid to ask questions, because I've been in that position where I'm like, I don't even know where to start. Like, where do I go? You know, how do I get jobs? So yeah, I think a lot about like my family getting me here, and I think a lot about like the people that I will also be helping when I do finally get to the place that I want to be in my career. But yeah, it's just taking every day, and I just feel like I'm really lucky to be working in an industry where I just get to create stuff every day, and like people are gonna binge the show that I'm gonna be working on, you know, like that's just really exciting to me.
Oh yeah, as a content creator, yeah, I know how fun it is, right? When you have something and when you have it out there and people are giving you comments on it, you just you just feel so great, right? To know that
Yeah.
your work is like being inspirational to others, and making other people happy when they're not having great days. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's what we do our thing for. Well, now that you mentioned some of those shows that some people might be binge watching, can you tell us more about some of the shows that you're working on right now? I know that there are some pretty like well-known shows too.
I started working in the industry like officially um as a production assistant. So that's kind of where you start a lot of the times. And I started working on I was just a production assistant for like American Idol. I forgot what season it was because I don't watch a lot of the stuff that I work on because I've already seen it. So I'm just like whatever. And and then I worked on another show called We're Here. It's on HBO. A lot of it was reality for the first year, and then I recently just finished season 8 of Brother versus Brother with the Property Brothers. I don't know if you've heard of them. Amazing people, love them.
Okay.
I work pretty frequently with them, but they are reality TV, and I do Try Guys. They're like they were with BuzzFeed and now they're like their own YouTube thing. They're really cool. But currently I'm working on Winning Time season 2, which is about the Lakers in that dynasty. And it's a scripted show. So they already did season 1. So you guys go watch it so that we can get a season 3. But yeah, that's what I'm working on right now. And it's very different than the other shows I used to work on because like I used to work a lot in reality, and now this is like in the studio. I mean, I worked on game shows that were in studios and stuff like that, but this is like there's a script, there's actors, and there's cut and there's action. It's not so much like reality TV, which I mean, in reality TV, there's a lot of celebrities, and you kind of it's funny because people are like, don't you freak out when you see celebrities? I'm like, they are literally like people. Like some of them are awkward, some of them are cool, some of them are fun. But I've had some pretty good like interactions with a lot of celebrities, and like they're really cool to talk with and everything. And I consider some of them like friends. So it's like I don't know. It's an interesting world to be in. But yeah, it's in reality you kind of see them, and then it's a little bit more close than in the scripted area because in reality you're like you're with them all the time. And scripted they go to the trailers and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm currently working on Winning Time, and it's about the Los Angeles Lakers, like how when they drafted Magic Johnson and that whole era of the Lakers and everything, and when they won the championship. And I actually just finished watching the first season yesterday because this is my first week working on it, and I'm just like, oh, this is a good show.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I'm glad you got the chance to see it, and yeah, everyone go watch it. I'll probably check it out now that you're involved in it.
Yeah,
I'm not like a Lakers
my
fan
name will be
myself,
in
but
season 2. Yeah, I don't know anything about basketball.
yeah.
It was Jersey Day on Friday, and I think I was like the only one wearing a baseball jersey. So everyone was wearing like a Lakers jersey, and I'm like over there with my San Francisco Giants jersey. So
You should have worn a Sacramento Kings jersey right there. I mean, I don't know how that
oh,
would have
I
gone down, right?
know.
But you're like
Oh,
just representing.
they would have like because they were chewing me up with the Giants. And so if I would have worn the Kings jersey, they would have been like, I wouldn't heard the last of it.
Although I would have been like, come on, like, don't hate on us too much, right? Because Kings haven't made the playoffs in like a really long time. So
Yeah,
it's like, oh, come on, could they really say much, right? It's like they shouldn't.
yeah. I used to love going to the Kings games. Actually, I had no idea what was going on. But I have a few friends that work at the Kings, so occasionally he would like one of my friends would like give me tickets, and it's just fun. Like especially the Golden One Center, it's such a cool arena, and the Sierra Nevada like area where all the like the beer is, all the like everyone goes and talks. It's just like a cool environment. So I mean, go Kings! I have no idea what basketball like. Even working on a basketball show, I don't know what's going on, but like. I support.
Are they also filming at their venue as well at the Lakers venue? I'm assuming that they've done production there or no?
No.
Oh, okay.
We film all on stage. Yeah.
Oh,
Everything's on
okay.
stage
Oh,
for the most
interesting.
part.
No.
Yeah.
At least for now, right? You're like, hey, maybe there's a season 3. You might get more inside access to.
I don't know when the Lakers get to the Staples Center or the Crypto Center
Yeah.
or whatever they call it these days. So I wouldn't know, but I think I don't want to shoot at the Staples Center. It would be so much work. I don't think any of us want to shoot there.
Oh, really? Why is that?
It's just because filming on location is
Mm.
it's such a hassle because when you're on stage, the equipment's there, everything's there.
Mm.
So when you go and film on location, you got to take everything with you, and then you got to put everything back. And it's like, I know it sounds lazy, but it's like 12 hours of work, and then you still got to do all that. I'm like, no, I don't want to do any of that.
Yeah, I'm sure it's like a back and forth, right? Because you have to get it from the studio, right? You go back and then you take it back to the studio. Is that how that works?
No, I mean, if it's just like a day, then we just take the equipment to whatever location we're at, and then we come back to the studio and drop off. Or like I worked on some shows where like the director of photography owns all of the equipment, so we just drive to the location where we're shooting, and then we drive the equipment back to their homes, and that's that. But we basically work out of a van, so I'd rather work out of like an actual area than like a van because it's just annoying.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine. I mean, you don't have that much space and you have all these like
Yeah,
equipments around you and
yeah, and especially starting like when I was starting off as a production assistant, I remember I did like a show. What was the show called? It was a Gordon Ramsay show. I forgot what the show was called. Sorry, guys. But
it was food related for sure though.
yeah, yeah, it was, and they had amazing catering. Oh my god, they had
Oh,
like seared tuna right like with the chefs right in front of you. I'm like, that's crazy.
oh
But
wow.
they we were shooting at a beach, and I mean the crew was like there was like maybe 200 people there, so we would have to like grab all the tables and the chairs and put them on the beach in the sand, and then break everything down at night, and then put it back in the morning, bring everything out and put it. So
Oh,
it was just, it's not fun.
yeah. I
It's
mean,
a lot of work.
it's not even fun when you're doing it for personal enjoyment,
No,
right?
no.
I can't imagine. Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a lot.
I definitely don't ever want to put a table up ever again in my life if I could help it.
Yeah. Like, oh, I'll get people to put tables,
Yeah.
chairs for any event, and
I see a folding chair and I get triggered. So I'm like, I'm like, I'm good.
oh no, you go if you go to any party, then right, you're like,
No, they better
no,
cover it
well,
up.
yeah,
Put a bow on it or something because
or make sure it's not a folding chair, right? Just get a desk chair and you're set.
yeah.
Or get one of those director chairs, right, with the name and all
Oh,
that.
those
Yeah.
are so annoying too. And a
All
lot
right.
of they're just annoying to like put away. Oh my god. It's just like everyone's gonna be like, oh, I love those director's chairs. No, they're annoying, guys. Because you gotta put them away and then the thing falls off with the name on it, and you gotta put it back on.
Okay, so they're not as great. Yeah, I mean, a lot of us we see that are like, oh, that's so cool. You know,
Yeah.
you have your name and
They use different ones now though. They use like some foldable, like kind of like the ones that you use to go camping,
oh,
but
okay.
they look more like director chairs, and those are way easier than like the wooden ones that are like the old school director ones that are annoying to put away. As a former production assistant, that's how I feel.
Yeah. Well, yeah, well that's really interesting. Well, I know you brought up the topic of celebrities earlier and how you've been able to like, befriend some of them. Who are some of those celebrities that, you've gotten to kind of know and, you could consider them as like friends like over the years?
I mean I've met a lot of people, a lot of people that I feel like I didn't really make an impression on, and then they're like, oh, I remember you. I'm just like, oh, cool, like
Mm.
yeah, that's cool. But I think, I mean, there's a lot of celebrities out there that I'm very like I look up to, I mean I didn't really get close to some of these people, but some of them I did, and I kind of admire their work and everything.
Mm.
And then some of them I just like admire from afar. But I think like for example the Property Brothers, I really admire how they work, and they're just the vibe. I've been working with them for about 2 years, and they are the nicest guys that I've like. They have their own company, and all their shows go through their company, but they're like they make a point and an effort to like know your name the first day that they meet you. And I remember the first day, they asked for my name, and the rest of the time they were like calling me by my name. They didn't forget my name, and they do that all the time. So like working with them for like 2 years now, it's like it's almost like the crew stays the same. So it's like a family for us, and we all joke around and everything, and we trust each other to do the job. But then also like during lunchtime, we just like banter. We have a lot of fun. And sometimes like they would get involved. I mean, they're busy guys. I mean, they're running a business and they do multiple shows at a time. So whenever they did get the opportunity to like stay and sit with us and talk with us, it's fun. Like it's just we're all friends. We're all talking. We're all having a good time. And that company gave me like a really good opportunity to move up from a production assistant to a assistant camera. So that I think like for them, they're great guys. Like, and I don't just say that because I worked for them, but like out of everyone that I've met, they've really tried to make everyone feel kind of like they cared for them, and that they're very thankful. I brought a few friends to work a few days because we were kind of down some production assistants. And who was it that told me that? I think it was was it Jonathan? No, I don't think it was Jonathan. I remember one of them came up to me, and they were like, "Thank you for like bringing your friends. Like, I'm glad that you feel comfortable and good to like recommend other people to like come to our sets and stuff like that." I'm like, "Oh yeah, like I always have fun with you guys. You guys are great." And my friends had a good time. They're like, "Yeah, I'm going to keep in touch with the company," because they're just really cool people. They're really nice. And yeah, they have a really good sense of humor, and like our crew is always like having fun and stuff like that. So yeah, like, and they do a really good job of keeping the same people and then bringing them back, which is why it's like a whole family. But them, I definitely appreciate them, and I appreciate their sister-in-law, which is their hair and makeup artist. But she also does like she also did modeling in the past and stuff like that. But yeah, they are probably like, maybe because I worked with them the longest, they're I guess my favorite, and like I have a appreciation for them as just human beings, not just as celebrities, but like as human beings. But yeah, I would say them. Other celebrities that I met Octavia Spencer and Renee Zellweger, and they're amazing human beings, so nice. Melissa McCarthy, we shot a show in her place, so it was funny because I didn't know she was in the show. A friend was just like, "Hey, do you want to be an AC, which is an assistant camera?" And I'm like, "Sure." And then I got the address and the call sheet, and I showed up, and then I seen Melissa there, and I'm just like, "Oh, what the heck?" And I'm just like looking for like somewhere to charge the camera batteries, and she's like, "Hi," and I was like, "Hi, I'm just looking for an outlet." And she's like, "Oh, okay, I think there's charging over there." And I was like, "Okay, cool." I didn't know it was her house, so I'm just like walking around. But she's such a nice person. Yeah, she was really nice. And I worked with her for maybe like 2 months this early spring. So yeah, like it's weird because you meet a lot of celebrities, and especially like in the scripted world, I'm noticing that the crew, like, they know a lot of celebrities, but it's just like this whole interaction. It's like, "Oh, how have you been?" It's never like how people would expect to be like, "Oh my God, can I have your autograph?" No, it's like, like they legitimately ask, "How's your kid? How's this person doing? How's your mom?" And it's kind of that, and that's kind of how I've started seeing them. I like, if I see a celebrity, I'd be like, "Oh, cool. I'll leave them alone. I'll see them somewhere while I'm working or something." But yeah, I'm not very. I don't think I don't think if I walk up to a celebrity, I'd freak out. I think the only one that I'd probably freak out would be like Lana Del Rey, and that's because it's like I love her. But like anything else, I'd be like, you just really get to see their human side of them and not so much their characters because they don't play a lot of them. I'm just like, you are not like your character at all.
Mm.
Like you are a different person. And I mean, I respect that, but man, you are not your character
Mhm.
at all. You are a good actor. Yeah.
Those are the most amazing actors, right? The ones
Hmm.
that, that they know that when the camera goes on, they flip a switch. When that's gone, they're like, hey, I'm a completely different person. I'm not the evil person that is being
Yeah.
portrayed in the movie, right? You're like, I'm actually a really friendly individual, and it's cool. Like I said, it just shows how much talent they have to be able to interpret just different roles like that.
Yeah. And a lot of the times, like you leave them alone because they're acting and you don't want
Mm.
to take them out of that zone. But I mean, sometimes I remember one time I had to, assistant director was like, hold Octavia's umbrella for her. And I was like, okay, because that's normal. Like other people hold their umbrellas.
Oh.
And she was like so nice. She was like, "Oh no!" And she grabbed the umbrella from me. She's like, "I'll do it. I got hands." And I was like, "Okay." but but then the assistant director's like, "No, you hold it." And I'm like, "She wants to hold it. What do you want me to do? Like, try to take it from her?" So it's like a lot of them are really humble. But they also like understand that our job is to like I guess cater to them. So I mean, it's when we're like holding umbrellas or holding stuff like that for them, it's not because like a lot of them aren't because like, oh, I need someone to hold an umbrella. No, it's just like it's standard. And now they're like, oh, okay, I guess they're gonna do this for me. But sometimes I do get people, or I used to get people that are like, no, I got it. I don't need you to do that for me. Like I can hold my own umbrella.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that they're humble, right? Because I think sometimes all of us who aren't involved in working in the industry, sometimes you tend to think like, oh, they might feel like really entitled, and they might not
Hmm.
even speak to their production. It's just like they go in, they act, and then they leave and disregard everyone else. So it's always really warming to be able to hear that, there's that might just be a misconception that's out there, and that there's a lot that are just really great with the crew they work with.
Yeah, and a lot of them, yeah, they are great because it's we kind of all have the same reason to be there. We're all creating something. We all are working on a film or a television show that we kind of all believe in. So, and without the actor, there's no show. Without the director, there's no show. Without the production assistant, there's no show, you know? So we
Mm-hmm.
all help each other out and it's just all collaborative. So we all have that understanding that we're all there to do one thing and that's to create the show or create the film. So it's just like that respect that we all have for one another. And I mean, you won't get it all the time, but I've been lucky enough to get it from most of the people that I've worked with.
So I have one question that I've always kind of wondered too, just because again, you're not in the environment. So uh, is your day to day different or is it similar? And then, walk us through like what it's like, just the one day you wake up, you go to work, and what's the process like? And I guess to give you a project, because I'm sure, it's probably different with all the projects. Let's go back to the Lakers one.
Okay, so I mean I work tomorrow, so I get up tomorrow and then I mean I get ready. I think we have like a pretty early call time, so I wake up early, I go to the studio and you check into the studio and then they shoot I help the loader with cuz we're shooting film. So the film has to be it's way different shooting film than shooting like on an SD card or a CF card or whatever card that they use. So with film, it's just quick. You can't really mess up too much because the film will run out and then it's really expensive. So we go through like a lot of rolls a day. I think we go through at least like 20 rolls a day. And that's because we're shooting different formats. But yeah, like my day is just running around,
Mhm.
making sure that there's enough film there for the camera department. Going back to the loader, making
Mhm.
sure that I grab what she needs me to grab, and that way I can take it to the camera department. And then once the film is shot, I grab that shot film, and then I go to turn it into the loader so it's a lot of back and forth, a lot of running around, but I do get to watch a lot of like what happens and what goes on, because in in film there's like in film and in TV there's the director, and then you have the assistant director, which is the AD, and then you have your camera operators, your camera assistants, first and second assistants, and those are usually the people in the room, because then you'll crowd up the room if you have everyone on that set. So in the studio, all of us are there, but then in the actual stage, when you walk in, it's usually only the people that really need to be there. And then outside, we have monitors of people like directors watching everything and stuff like that. But yeah, and just making sure like the monitors are okay for the director to watch, that it never dies, and stuff like that. So that's kind of my day to day. And like, there's always, like I said, there's always crafty, and like they feed us like every 2 hours. And I told the crafty guys, to not let me eat anymore, because it's excessive. I'm just like, you guys need to stop, because they're like, oh, there's quesadillas and crafty now. I'm like, why? We just ate 2 hours ago. I don't need it, but like it's there, so now I have to eat it. It's like they're like, you don't have to. I'm like, no, I have to, because it's there now. So it's like the opportunity has presented itself. So it's a lot of eating too. And yeah, and then the actors wrap. Once the actors wrap, they get to go home, but we still have to like finish up and everything. And I'm usually like one of the last people to leave, because I just want to make sure everyone is good, no one else needs me. And then I go home, and then I watch. Well, I was watching the first season, but now I have to like. I love watching documentaries. I go home, watch documentary, and wake up, do it all over again. And this is like a 12-hour day. We haven't had anything longer than a 12-hour day, I don't think, because we just started shooting. But I know that a lot of the times towards the like end of the season, for a lot of shows, you kind of end up hitting a lot of overtime. Yeah, like I mean, like I said, I've been on shows where I was like a 17-hour day, and I've heard of like people saying that they've had like 24-hour days, and I'm like, that's not a day. But yeah, it's such an interesting industry, but I don't think I'd rather be in any other industry. It's fun, and every day is different. We don't do. I mean, I do the same tasks, but I do it in a different environment, and you can tell that everyone there is having fun. It's like we're all like kids in a toy store, and I love seeing the director like watching the monitor, and they're like, yes, like that's a good performance. And like watching the cinematographer be like, oh my God, that shot was amazing. And yeah, it's just cool like watching them, because I hope to be a cinematographer one day. So I like watching him, and I ask a lot of questions when it's like an appropriate time and stuff like that. Because the crew that I'm with, like they're really good at answering questions, and they understand that other people are interested in like doing their job. So I got really lucky with that. But yeah, that's my daily life is just running around. I just bought new shoes because my feet were hurting last week. This is a lot.
Oh, well, that sounds really exciting. And, even though they're long hours, I mean, if you're having fun, I feel like it doesn't even feel like they're long hours, right? Because
Yeah.
that's usually what I like to say, right? If you're keeping busy, before you know it, you're like, wait, it's been already 8-9 hours? Like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of where I feel like everyone should be. I know it's hard, and not everyone is like fortunate enough to like have that option, but definitely choosing like a career path where you legitimately feel like you can get up in the morning and be like, another day at work, another day of having fun. And it doesn't have to be filmmaking, obviously. Other people have different interests. But yeah, I'm really lucky to have landed in this career path.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm really glad to hear that. Well, one last question before I let you go. Thanks for being on here and give me your free time here so we could talk about your career and whatnot. But do you have any advice for anyone that's trying to get into the film industry and whatever aspect of it?
Yeah. So I would definitely, I mean, if you're in like the Stockton area, go on staffmeup.com, and they have a lot of production assistant like postings. So a lot of productions kind of look for people to like be a production assistant. There's a few of them actually in Sacramento. Sometimes they shoot a lot in Sacramento. They shoot in Reno or in San Francisco. So if you want to get your foot in the door, you can go to staffmeup.com and just make up a free login, and then you can apply from there. That's something that I wish I knew when I was up in Northern California. And I did get a few jobs from that. And once I moved here, I got some jobs from that too. But it's mostly reality driven, but it does get you like your foot in the door, and you kind of get to know like the lingo of what a film set, like how they talk and what a film set is kind of like, or a television set. Definitely, if you're like into writing, write as much as you can. Enter writing contests. There's a lot of them on filmfreeway.com. That's filmfreeway.com is like a film festival submission place. So if you want to submit your film, you can submit it there. But they also have a lot of writing competitions. So make sure you do that. That's if you want to be a director or you want to write, go on that, do that stuff. Sundance also has like their own writing competition. And once you're in with Sundance, you're pretty golden. A lot of film festivals have that. Go to film festivals, meet people. I've met people from all over the world in film festivals. I met a really good friend at a film festival, and she has the same interests as I do. So go to film festivals, put yourself in that position, reach out on Instagram. I reached out on TikTok to a cinematographer. He shot American Horror Story season 5, and I asked him a few questions, and then we Zoomed a few times, and now it's like I have his number and I can text him, so you never know. Like, put yourself out there, reach out to people, reach out to me if you need to. I love when people reach out to me because I like answering questions and making it a little bit easier for the next generation. Go to school, because in school you make the connections, especially if you're in school in LA or in New York, you make those connections. But yeah, just don't be afraid to reach out, because you can send the same email or the same message to like 20 filmmakers that you look up to. Maybe one of them will get back to you and be like, oh, this, and that. They'll answer your question, and maybe you can develop a friendship out of that. And if not, they answered your question, right? So you have that answer now. But always just stay curious, ask people questions. We are normal people. Like, directors are normal people. Yeah, they're busy, and they will answer you when they're not busy. But yeah, I would just say reach out, go to Film Freeway, go to Staff Me Up. You're going to start as a production assistant. I rarely see anyone start as a director. So if you want to be in this, you're going to start as a production assistant for the most part. And then there, it's really good to see if you want to be an assistant director, if you want to be a director, cinematographer. It's a really good spot to kind of see what you want to do and what each job does, because you're just kind of watching and it's an entry position. So yeah, those are some tips. And if anyone wants to reach out to me, I'll answer any questions. But yeah, I think going onto those websites and making sure that you approach whoever you want to approach, because you never know, they might just like contact, and they might be a good contact, and they might actually like bring you on to something.
Awesome. Yeah, those are really great things. Where can people reach out to you? Now that you mentioned that too.
They can you can reach out to me on Instagram, Culture Maria. Although right now my phone isn't letting me on Instagram, so I have to log into my my computer. I don't know what happened to my phone. It's just like not happy with me. So I might take a while to reply, as you know, Luis, because I have to log into my computer. So if you want to reach out via Instagram, it's Culture Maria. If you want to email me, which is probably quick, it's a little bit quicker. It's Maria Alanis Films with an S at the end @gmail.com. And I will reach out, and I will, whatever questions you have or anything about the industry, I will make sure to answer any of those questions.
Cool. Well, yeah, that sounds great. Hopefully you're able to get that fixed soon, and let me know if you need any help with that. I think I've had that happen to me with other accounts, and I know it's annoying to have to go on the computer. Great. Well, I can't wait to hear back from you, maybe like a year, 2 years down the line, especially when you have more projects going on, and especially when you have other things over here. I know that series. Ever since you mentioned it, I'm like, I want to hear more about it, and
Yeah.
definitely want to share it as much as possible, especially once you have it all done, and you want
Hmm.
to make sure that we get more work over here.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for being on again, and I hope you have the best of luck over there. And I'll be watching that Lakers series now.
Thank you so much for having me. And best of luck to the podcast. I've listened to a few episodes and I really like it. I enjoy listening to other people that are from that area and not just me being like, it's not just one successful story, it's multiple successful stories from that area. And I love that. So thank you for showing that.
Oh, yeah, thanks. I'm glad to hear that. Once again, thank you so much to Maria for being on the podcast tonight. It's always really great to be able to hear from people who've had a vision to get to where they want to get. And I'm really glad that she's day by day working towards getting to that point in her career where she wants to be at. And especially coming from the Valley, as we spoke about earlier, it's never easy to be able to get into these media fields that a lot of people view as almost unattainable here in the area. And I'm a big believer that all it takes is just a couple of people making it there and showing everyone back home that, like, hey, I grew up in the same area you did, and now I'm working in this industry that previously, just seemed like you couldn't get there. And we're just going to have more people over there as well. Of course, we do have a lot of great scenery here as well, like Maria mentioned. And I think, I have no doubt that we're going to be seeing TV shows, movies being produced here in the area. Maybe, of course, never to the extent of LA itself, but I think all it really takes as well there on that part is to have one or two TV shows, movies that do really good that were filmed over here in Northern California, to be able to show everyone that, like, hey, you could choose, to film over here, because there's a lot of great places that could really, showcase your film idea or your TV show that you're trying to record. And the moment that happens, we're going to see a lot more actors here in the area, and more interest, I think, just in general, to be in the film industry or just working in general, maybe in television as well. And so I'm really excited for that. And like I mentioned, once Maria has more details on the series that she's working on, and especially once that series is complete, we're definitely going to have her back here on the podcast to talk about that and let us know what the experience was like, and bringing, some show work over here to the Central Valley. Well, once again, if you're not subscribed to the podcast yet, please hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening to it. It really does help the show out a lot. And you also get to find out whenever I post new episodes, which I am on a schedule of posting every Wednesday. Thank you so much to everyone for listening to the podcast tonight. And as usual, if you'd like to be on the show, or if you know someone else who would be interested in being on the show, please feel free to share the show with them and share our socials with them. You can find us at the 209 Journey on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So feel free to send me a direct message on any of those platforms, and we'll try to get the interview coordinated there as well. Well, I hope everyone has a great morning or night whenever you might be listening to this, and we'll see you next week here on the 209 Journey podcast.